Are we recording? Yeah, there we go. Okay, we have a request to work with water droplets. Water droplets, a lot of fun. To start off with, we want to look at what happens in a water droplet. We'll have a circle or whatever shape it is, and the water disperses light. So, excuse me, Sheldon, go that way. The highlight, we want to save the white where the highlight is, and the opposite side of the water droplet will be the lighter part of the water droplet. So the highlight will be on the darker side inside the droplet, and this side is lighter. Then it casts a shadow on the outside. So just remembering that, see, like here, I almost didn't make this side dark enough because the light doesn't show. And this one, it was kind of fun because I just used a couple of colors and tried to let whatever colors were around it reflect inside. And this one, kind of the same thing, except I forgot to save the white. So I kind of came back with a white watercolor. Don't think I had my watercolor or my whiteout pen at the time, so those aren't as pure white as it should be, and they're a little too even. Now if you had a window right next to you with 3 panes, you know, maybe that's what's shining in your water droplet, but anyway, it looks a little fake. But just to remember that to save the white. So what we're going to do first is probably move the cat that keeps walking around.
Here, it comes right down here.
I'm going to first draw very lightly some semi-oval. Right, they might be round, they might not be. I'm not really too concerned that they're. I don't want perfect circles. I don't even think you can hardly see that, but I want them really light because I want to paint around them. And we're going to have to do this in stages because we want to save the white, but the first thing we're going to do is paint the background.
Okay.
So what I do with that is I first want to decide what colors do I want in the background. And I kind of like this green yellow tone here. So I'm going to take some of my green and make a puddle. It can be any color you want. I would just pick at least 2 colors that if they're mixed together, they won't make an ugly color. So don't pick 2 complementary colors to start off with this. And I want some yellow, because green and yellow just make a limier color. Nothing ugly. Let me move him. Sheldon's visiting.
It's okay. It's fine.
Okay. Oh, that's so cute.
Hey, baby. You're a sweet boy. Yes, you are.
You can watch her, just don't mess her up.
Yeah, because I mess up easy. You might get a pink nose here.
He deserves it. If you want to throw in another color, like I'm gonna pick a blue because I know if blue mixes with green, it'll make kind of a blue-green. If it mixes with yellow, it'll make a green. So it's not going to give me an ugly color. And that's the main thing that I want. Is just. You sure you don't want me to put him down? Sheldon. Here. Sit right here. Sit down. Leave her alone. Okay, so I want to clean my brush, and I want to flood my paper around those circles with just water. So I'm going to hold it to where I can see my circles. The point of the brush will aim toward the circle because I can control where that is. See how I'm just pointing toward the circle and going around? And then I want to flood the area. So always try to pull your brush toward the handle instead of, if I want to flood an area, I'm going this direction, but I'm pulling it toward the handle rather than pushing it toward the point. You push it toward the point, you're going to end up damaging the bristles.
Okay, should we be flooding just around one circle?
Well, I'm going to try to do all of them.
Okay.
So it's going to be pretty wet. It's going to be shiny. But I kind of wanted it to all mix together. And if you don't do it at once, then there's usually a line where you can tell where you came back. Alright, so I have it flooded, and I'm going to start picking up the lightest color to start with. I'm just throwing in some yellow right out of the palette that I mixed. Then I'll pick up some blue. I didn't even clean the brush. So I'm just laying it in, letting it run together. Here's some green. But this is pretty pale, so I'm going to go pick up some colors right out of the palette. So I just went into my green, went into my blue, and again, because I'm laying it where it's wet, it should only go where the water is. Now I'm going to paint around the edges just so that I make sure I get all the way up to where that circle is. But I want to let the paint kind of do its thing, where I put some in. It should be run. See how it's runny? I want it that wet, so we get the wet on wet effect. And when I feel like I have enough variety in there, and I have at least up to the circles, ovals, whatever shapes you have, then I can let it go. So I have a variety of colors. I've used 3, a blue, a green, and a yellow. And in person it looks a lot brighter than it does on the video. I'm looking at the shape of this one. This one looks a little too square, so I'm going to pull it in while it's still wet and adjust the shape. You don't want to do that when it's dried too much. Okay, so, and leave some white.
Okay.
Okay?
I need a matching color.
Or you could just do all shades of red. It doesn't matter. You could.
Maybe I'll go easy and do that.
Yeah, it's fine. But I mean, you just pick up different reds and put in there. Make some of them dark, or just use the same color and make some of it real intense. So I'm gonna do another one while that's waiting. Waiting while it's drying. This time I'm gonna do a teardrop shape. Well, and I put it right smack in the middle. Don't do that. Flip it over. I just think it's more interesting. And I know odd numbers are good, but I'm just doing 2 on this one. Oops, forgot to clean my brush.
Mud.
It's like, we have pale green for the background. And that happens to everybody. Well, help if I put it down where y'all can see it. I was holding it too close and you couldn't even see it in the video. Well, one of these days I'll try a YouTube live. I thought, well, if nobody comes tonight, I could try that. But y'all could all go to YouTube and see me flounder through the, because you really need a second person, to me, when you're doing something live, because then they can read the questions that come in. And because I don't do that very often, even watch anything live. Timing usually isn't very good for me. Do you do any of that?
No.
Figure you could do a cooking show. I like that kind of turquoisey color. We'll add some more of that. Now I got over the edge. I let it tilt it, let it run back. And this is pretty wet, which is kind of fun. I want a little more color, so drop some in there while it's wet. Add another color. Why not? Sometimes I get too spotty. I get carried away with adding stuff, and it doesn't really help.
I don't know what I'm afraid I'm doing here. I'm trying to clean up my circles, and it's...
Yeah, this is when I work with anything with wet on wet. I often work with sometimes up to 4 pieces, because you have to let it dry between coming back. Oh, that'll work. What you've got? That'll work.
Okay.
Okay, so just set it aside and let it dry.
Okay.
And we'll come back to that in a little bit.
Okay.
And grab a scrap sheet of paper, and we'll do a little quick sketching of people. I'll show you how easy it is. Here's another book that is it's a good reference. Learn to Paint People Quickly, Hazel Sohn. I thought it was going to be a watercolor book. It really isn't, but there's enough in here that, I mean, you might can even get it at the library, but just it gives you some interesting ways to capture the impression of a person without spending a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And my favorite page, when I saw this, I went, okay, I need to get this book. Find it.
And these are just loosely done, not drawn first.
I'm not sure.
See, that's what mine would look like. See that?
It's like
goofy guy
this,
in the
any
corner?
cute? Yeah.
That's how mine's going to turn out.
I don't know that she draws first. She doesn't go into a lot of detail. But this is the part I liked. Getting the proportions right. It's like, okay, we have a dot, and then we have an M, and then we have a W. So when I'm doing people quick, and well, like last week I did the Capitol building or whatever, and I just did, those were just lines, but it read right. So I can, a dot, let me get that a little darker, see, because I'm working small. A dot, an M, well, that's rough M, and a W.
Or an
I should
upside
do
down V.
Okay, the W, they did it like that. Okay, that skinny legs is the W. So that, I would make that longer. And then, so it's more like that.
Okay.
But then she put, it's like, All right, here's a dot. Here's the shoulders. An arm might come out. The elbow is waist high, which I never really thought about. And then his legs might be together, so he could be standing there, or one hand could be.
Now he needs a tray in that hand because that's a waiter.
Okay. But see, where that tells the story.
Yeah.
I don't like this first one, so we'll eliminate that. But making it simple is really neat, and so I got this book just to practice people, and so you could do that with anything. She has, now these are really loose. These are watercolor. But it almost looks like there's some sketching. But what I also like is the use of atmospheric perspective, where these that are further away are much lighter. So it gives you the illusion of depth. And it's okay with, like she does a shirt and then the pants and they run together. It still reads right. So you don't have to be so worried about something running into something else. And I tried the silhouette. That was fun. I'll show you the ones I tried. But adding people. Here we go. Learning to draw people quickly. So simplifying their forms, looking at just basic shape, the bend of the body, where the legs come together or if they're separated when they're walking. I have a tendency to make shoulders maybe a little too wide, but gives you an idea of how really simple it can be. And when you practice these, I mean, you can pause a picture on TV and just try to capture the stance of a person. If they're leaning on, like this guy's leaning on this foot, it's got the weight because this one's bent. Just to get a feel for that. This was also in the book where you leave a highlight of white around the person and then you do their silhouette as to indicate that it's backlit, and then the shadows below are not as dark, but they all come from a central, that's aerial, I mean linear perspective is how the directional shadows go. Just indicating, just drawing shadow, that's where you're just eliminating all the detail, just look for light and dark. And and from a different perspective looking down. This was from another book, just practicing drawing people in different ways. That was one of my art students one day. I just sketched her real quick. Saving the light where the light is and just sketching in the shadows and the shape of the shadows. Don't even think I'm making a shirt or pants. Just go, well, that's kind of straight here and it has a wiggle line here and it bends out. I mean, think of it that way instead of naming what you're. Ignore that. That was a house. Okay, yeah, the cowboy. Just doing silhouettes are fun. You don't have to worry about color. Now I faded it out on the outside because it was brighter on the outside, and so I wanted a softer edge, and it also kind of indicates movement. Walking on the beach with a dog. It's blurred. Somebody was moving. This was just quick sketches, and then drawing shadow. You still get an idea of what's there. So some of these are from that book, and some of them from other observations. But what I did is art journal, figure study. What I want to put mostly in here is working on drawing people. whether it's drawing from life, drawing from photographs, other books. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is when I first started journaling, I thought, okay, it'll just be when I travel. Well, then I found other journals that I wanted to try, different sizes or different brands, and I wanted to test them out, but I wasn't traveling. Mm-hmm. And so it was screwing me up with, oh, well, that's not the purpose of this journal. and so it's like it really doesn't have to have it doesn't have to fall in the category of traveling. Mm-hmm. It's just your experiences. This one was something I just purchased and I wanted to celebrate that. This was having craft time with friends and a dinner out with some other friends. So it doesn't have to be a particular topic, but when it's a topic like you want to practice, like the cat one that I showed y'all the first night, mm-hmm. If you want to save it just for a particular study, mm-hmm. it's a good idea. So, hey, but the only frustrating part is I don't always have this with me mm-hmm. when I want to practice. Mm-hmm. So there's good and bad to it, but to have something that you're going to just dedicate to one topic, I think is meaningful, and then you can go back and look at the beginning mm-hmm. and see growth.
Well, at least see mine are turning out really stick figures.
Okay, I would just say make your legs twice as long, your head a little smaller. And think about, so like the head is just like almost an exclamation point uh-huh. without the dot, not quite that long. The shoulders are usually, from shoulder to shoulder, it's almost like 3 heads wide.
Okay.
So however wide your head is. People are usually 7 heads tall, adults. So if you want to kind of measure, you can. But thinking that the elbow, you know, when you put your arm down, your elbow is at your waist. Uh-huh. So if the length of my arm, with my hand, I can bring up to my elbow. So if I bend my elbow, when I bend it back up with the hand, it can only go about, with the hand, it's a little beyond the shoulder when it's bent. But when I'm standing up, and see how long my hand will go below my hip.
Thigh.
Yeah. So when you start observing the torsos and people and how long their bodies are or short, especially with children, it's different proportions there, then it can help you with getting something that's very simple but making it look like it's accurate enough to tell the story. And if you want women, you just make just give it a little bit more to their hair, so it connects, and you don't necessarily see their neck as much. Put a hat on them if you want. Whatever silhouette you want.
Here, this is Uncle Sam.
That's okay. But it's again, it's just play with it a little bit, and I would say probably make them longer than you might think. Just elongate the body a little bit. Just play with that when you have nothing else to do. I'm going to stop for just a second. Stop. Stop.